Hi everybody, it's Bill from the Walks of Life, and today we're gonna make Moo Shu Pork with traditional pancakes, just like my family and I used to make it in our restaurant. Homemade Mandarin Pancakes, as they're sometimes called, really make the dish. These days I find that when you go to the restaurants, you might get ready-made Moo Shu pancakes and not made from scratch. So I'm gonna show you how to make the Moo Shu, but I'm also gonna show you how to make the pancakes. So on our blog, we actually have 2 Moo Shu Pork recipes. One from Judy is actually a traditional Moo Shu pork with eggs, cucumbers, and wood ears. But today what we're making is the Western version of Moo Shu Pork with homemade pancakes. You can also make a chicken version or even a vegetarian version, which we also have on the blog. So to make this Moo Shu Pork, here's what you need. We used fresh sliced pork, 2 fresh eggs. We also need the wood ear mushrooms, which are reconstituted from dry, as well as shiitake mushrooms. But if you can't find those ingredients, it's perfectly fine to substitute with fresh mushrooms. Taiwanese flat cabbage or a regular green cabbage, and we have carrots and scallions. And now we're gonna make our Moo Shu pancakes. You need some all-purpose flour, some boiling water, which we're gonna get at the stove, and some salt. We're gonna measure out the flour, which is 1½ cups. That's 1 cup. And by the way, this recipe makes 12 pancakes. Once you make these once, you're not gonna go back. They're thinner, they're chewier. You can actually make them ahead of time, freeze them, and reheat them in the steamer. And if you still have some Moo Shu left over and you don't have any more pancakes, just eat it with rice. Next, we need 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and you're gonna stir this all up. And now the boiling water. Boiling water is really key to make it chewy. Don't be tempted to use just cold water. 2/3 of a cup, or you can use a digital scale. It's 163 milliliters. And of course, I'm stirring it as I'm pouring it. And in a minute, I'm gonna switch to my hands to knead it. And yes, you have to knead this for a little while to get it to a smooth dough ball. Now, you're gonna have a little bit extra flour on the side, because if this starts to get a little too thick at any point, you're gonna add flour to it. I'm just gonna use my hands now. So you can see it's a pretty wet ball and it's pretty rough. So I'll continue kneading for another 8 minutes. Okay, the dough is really smooth. You see that? So we're gonna put it back into this bowl. You can cover this with plastic also, but we're gonna use a cloth. We're gonna let it rest 1 hour. And while this is resting, we can prepare the rest of the dish. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna give our wood ears a rough chop. It's about 1/2 cup. We're gonna have our shiitake mushrooms. It's about 4 mushrooms dried, and make sure after you hydrate them, you're gonna squeeze these because they're full of water. Cut the stems right off at the cap. And these mushrooms are super fragrant. So that's definitely a case to use dried shiitake mushrooms. So you just want these thinly sliced. So these are gonna go in together with the wood ear mushrooms. So I'm just gonna put them in one bowl. And next we're gonna slice up the carrots. It's about 1½ cups, about 3 inches long. Now a shortcut to this would be to get some coleslaw mix, but I like to slice them and then stack them up. You want to cut one side off so you get a flat piece for it to sit on. Just make sure you try to make these about the same size. So we'll put these on a plate. And while we're at it, 2 cloves of garlic. We're just gonna chop those. These are a rough chop, it's good. Next, we're going to julienne our scallions. Again, cut them about 3 inches long. So that's our julienne scallions. And next, we're gonna chop our cabbage. We need about 3 cups of cabbage. And actually, cabbage is a lot easier to cut than you think. So what I've done is cut the cabbage in half. And you can weigh this on a scale if you like, but that's about 1 cup, a little bit less. So we need 3 cups. Now, this pork, I actually had a small package of pork. It's about 6 ounces, julienned already from when I made ribs. But I have to have a little bit extra pork to make the full 12 ounces. Not a special cut of pork or anything. It's actually a pretty inexpensive cut, pork shoulder butt. I'm gonna actually butterfly these open. So now I've got a long thin strip here, and I'm gonna fold it over to make it fast. And then I'm gonna cut these into thin strips. When you're eating Moo Shu pork, you don't want any big chunks of pork. You want nice thin strips. Okay, so we're gonna add that to the bowl. I'm gonna do the same thing. Butterfly this open, and I'm just gonna stack them up and slice the strips. Okay. Next, what we're gonna do is velvet our pork. We need a tablespoon of water, which in this case, I have mushroom water, 1 tablespoon of that, because it's nice and fragrant. I'm gonna use 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, and a teaspoon of oil. And I am just gonna use my hands to mix it all up. Make sure this gets all incorporated. And you can see that water is just being soaked up by the pork to make it juicy, but there's no standing water in here. All right, set that aside. So now we're gonna make the sauce. And we need 1/4 cup of water. And again, I'm gonna use a little bit of mushroom soaking water. You can just use regular water. And then we're gonna use a tablespoon of hoisin. Okay, we're gonna put that in there. We need 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, 2 tablespoons of light soy sauce, 1/2 teaspoon of dark soy sauce. Okay, we're gonna eyeball it.
That's it. That's too much.
That's good. And 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. Ground white pepper, 1/8 of a teaspoon or a good pinch. I'm just gonna shake some in. A little bit of cornstarch. It's gonna thicken any liquid that remains in the sauce, about 1/2 teaspoon. And we're just gonna stir everything up. I'm actually gonna leave these spoons in here to stir right before we cook. And now we're gonna roll out our rested dough. It's a nice, happy dough here. All right, so we're gonna roll this into a nice cylinder and we're gonna cut it into 12 pieces. So we're gonna cut it in half and then that in half, thirds. Let's make these into 2-inch discs. You get a little bit extra flour on the bench. What you want to do is make these into somewhat even discs, because what you're going to do is stack them. So basically we're going to cook these as double pancakes, roll them out, and then we're going to peel them apart, and we got a 2-for-1. We've made these about the same size and we're ready to roll. And this is just a neutral oil. In this case, we're using some avocado oil. So I'm going to brush one side of it just like so. Make sure you get these edges because otherwise it's going to stick. As I brush these, I'm going to stack them with the oil sides inside the sandwich and make them easy to peel apart after we cook them. All right, so we've got our dough. Dusting here, make sure nothing sticks. And then I am just going to roll these out. So you want to give these a little bit of a pad first. Also turn them over. And don't be stressed out if they don't actually match, but you do want to get them matched up as best as you can. And now you just use your rolling pin and just roll it out. These Mandarin pancakes are actually made also in China and had with China, and they're called spring pancakes or chunbing. And a lot of these chunbing are actually rolled very thin, almost paper thin. So notice what I'm doing is I'm also turning it around. So there is a variation of Moo Shu in China where they use these chunbing or these spring pancakes and they wrap all kinds of stuff, not just what we're doing today with the Moo Shu pork. So this is pretty good. I'm going to turn it over once again. Here's where you got to be a little gentle. I like to make sure that the edges are rolled also so they don't get a thick edge. All right, so I'm going to put this aside, cover it with a towel, and I'm just going to continue to roll these other pancakes out until I have them all rolled out, and then we're going to go to the wok and cook them. Oh, and another thing that I want to mention is that when you serve Moo Shu pork, you always have a nice sauce that you're going to put on the pancake and then put the Moo Shu filling on, and that consists of a little hoisin sauce, soy sauce, a little bit of sesame oil, and water. Pop that into the microwave, stir it all up, and heat it up. Okay, we're at the wok here. We're about to make our Moo Shu pancakes. What you want to do is actually have a dry wok, low heat. Put these guys in here slowly.
So there's no oil?
There's no oil.
It is handy to have a 22-inch wok at times like these.
The idea for these pancakes is just to get until they're slightly brown. So that was the first pancake we put in. See, it's cooking and it's starting to bubble up a little bit. Probably ready to turn. There you go, you get a little brown scorch. That's actually what you want. And you actually don't want these to be too crispy. So I'm gonna take this out. Be careful of the steam here, but you do wanna turn them when they're kind of hot like this. And then you put them right here, just like that. Look at that nice puff up there. Okay, I'm gonna finish frying these pancakes and then I'm gonna make the Moo Shu filling. So now that we're finished cooking the pancakes, they're covered and warm, and we're gonna cook the Moo Shu filling. All right, I'm gonna heat this up. Put a couple of tablespoons of oil in here. Tossing our eggs. You want to cut these pieces with your wok spatula just like this. Yeah, I'm going to put it back into the bowl. Next, we're going to sear our pork. So we're going to get the wok screaming hot. Tablespoon of oil in. Put our pork. Spread it out to one layer. Let that sear for a minute. Okay, the pork looks like it's about 90% done. I'm going to take it out. It's going to continue to cook in the bowl. And we're going to cook it again with the vegetables. A little bit more oil in there. Put our garlic, carrots, shiitake mushrooms. Now I'm going to add the cabbage. As soon as it starts to look a little bit dry, we're going to douse it with a tablespoon of Shaoxing wine. Oh, look at how nicely that deglazes the wok. Now we're going to add our pork back in and all those juices that you see. We're going to stir up the sauce. Add that in. We got a little bit of that liquid in there. That's why we add that bit of cornstarch. We're going to add back our egg. We're going to add the scallions. Final touch. And we have Moo Shu Pork now. We're ready to plate. Oh boy. Why do I think we don't have enough pancakes? Moo Shu Pork. I would say this is almost, not quite, a double order. All right, let's go give it a shot. Moo Shu Pork, and here's how you eat it. You take a pancake, and then put a little smear of this on here. You want this kind of compact. I can't do this one-handed like the waiters in the day used to. Make sure you get some good pork in there, the wood ears and the mushroom. The way we do a moo shu is you put this bottom up a little bit like this, and then you roll this up and over like this, and then you roll this up like this. That prevents your filling from falling out.
Your pork spilleth over.
There you go. And this for me is a two-handed job. That hits the spot every time. Just a little bit of extra moo shu sauce. Really nice. That's the signature moo shu taste.
So how does it compare to back in the day?
Well, believe it or not, back in the day, I cooked a lot more than I ate. Moo Shu Pork at home with your homemade pancakes. It's not only delicious, but it's actually a fun time. You can have your kids or your friends, family, help make the pancakes, and it can be a big project. If you like this video and you like Moo Shu Pork, give us a like on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and visit us at thewoksoflife.com for both complete recipes, Moo Shu Pork and Moo Shu Pancake. Thanks, folks. Delicioso. And if you don't have enough pancakes, just eat the rest of your Moo Shu Pork with rice or moo shu. And if you what?
And if you don't, if you have moo shu pork, if you have some moo shu left, just eat it with rice.
Okay. And if you still have some moo shu left and no pancakes, just eat your... I actually timed this and I said, it doesn't take 8 minutes. Next time I made it, it takes about 8 minutes. And if you still have some Moo Shu Pork left over with your pancakes, moo shu,
No,
just
no
moo shu,
pancakes.
moo shu. Running low on oyster sauce. Hello. And if you still have some moo shu left over and you don't have any more pancakes, just eat it with rice.
Perfect.
I didn't think it'd be that difficult.